Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin. Welcome to this episode. With me today is my co-host, Big Jim McDannald. How you doing,
I'm
Jim?
Big Jim now. I'm doing well.
Big Jim, I love
Yeah,
I like mixing
I've
it up.
gotten Jimbo. I've got Jimmy Mac. I've got a lot of connotations, but actually, the older brother of a friend was called Big Jim, so I was always Little Jim because I'm 5 foot nothing and 150 pounds, all a tight fit running machine here. But I appreciate that. I'll take that compliment. I guess I'm getting a little bigger as winter here in Canada, turning into spring, trying to burn off some of that winter fat. But no, things are good here. We just finished watching a little Disney film with the family and ready to hop into some podiatry marketing topics today with you.
Well, before we do that, what was the film? Always like to know what
it was
you're
one of
watching.
the most recent Disney ones. It's called Encanto. It's about a Colombian magical family. It's a good watch.
Oh,
All
okay.
those new Disney movies are pretty interesting. And when you've got like a 7-year-old and an almost 5-year-old, yeah, you just get to be a
remember.
kid again. It's fun.
My daughter's 18 this year, so it's good. Don't have to watch those. We just finished watching Afterlife,
Okay.
which was on Netflix with Ricky Gervais.
Okay.
And not recommended for kiddies. Remember when we were off air last week, we were talking about that word that some people
Right.
don't like. Yeah, it's dropped a lot. It's dropped a lot in that show. But I must admit, I think British comedy is the best comedy in the world. There's just something about it is just, I think it's because they're so polite usually. And, well, actually, Canadians are the politest people, but they're
Proper.
it
They're
always looks a little
proper
bit
and formal.
They're
Yeah.
proper. Yes. Yeah. A bit more proper and formal, bow to the Queen, all that sort of stuff. So when they put a comedy on and some of their comments just are so funny. But anyway, we should get back onto.
I do have one quick comment though.
this
I will
podcast.
say that I
Yeah.
do prefer the British version of The Office over the American version. That might be controversial because Steve Carell, the Dwight Schrute in the American version, it's really good, but the original David Brent BC style of The Office is still like my favorites.
Well, yeah, it's in Australia, the show, I don't know if you heard of the show, Kath and Kim.
Nah.
So anyway, in Australia, it was a massive show over here. So the Americans did their version of it. Absolute shocker. It was a shocker. So I agree, the British version of The Office, far better than the American one. I still find the American one funny though.
They're both good. They're both good. It's just the British one is so much more cringe. Oh.
See, this is almost like a marketing topic in itself. What we're talking about right now, where people will copy what's been successful in one place, they'll copy it, and doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be successful in another place, even with really good actors.
True. That could be a topic for another show, like how The Office relates to podiatry marketing or something.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get on to today's topic. We're going to talk about online referrals and why they're important. So give us your take on this. Why are online referrals so important?
Actually, today we're going to talk about online reviews, but it's a similar thing. Like you can't.
Shit, I stuffed up. Hang on, I'm gonna. You'll edit this out of the video, and I'll edit it out of the podcast. Okay. So today we're going to talk about online reviews and why they are so important. So, Jim, why are online reviews important, and why should people pay a lot of attention to them?
Yeah, I would say they're really important these days because it's one of the most kind of visible things that are shown online when people search for your name or the name of your clinic. The star level are very visible in search results. And it's not only patients get tired of hearing people talk about themselves or clinics say that they're the best foot and ankle clinic since sliced bread or in the greater Chicagoland area. They want to see what people really think about you. Obviously, as most clinics and most doctors probably know, like there can be either fake reviews or overtly negative ones from disgruntled patients. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but there's no better way for a person to transfer trust and kind of speak to the whole community about how great you are and the care you provide. And that just really resonates with other people in a way that's more genuine and authentic, especially when it's a written review. Stars are nice, but like a genuinely written review about the care they received and how they feel about you and your clinic, it speaks volumes.
Yeah, I remember going back, maybe 5, 8, 10 years ago, I had a few friends who were computer nerds, and anytime we went to do anything, they'd strap me straight on their phone. We're going to go for dinner. Oh, let's check out the restaurant reviews. And I'm like, oh, bloody hell, can we just pick a restaurant? Oh, no, we've got to read the reviews. We've got to look at the photos. And I'm going, my God, we just pick a restaurant. I know that place down there is supposed to be good. Let's see what the reviews are. And they would not go to a restaurant that didn't have a certain rating. and they'd read through the comments, and they really judged where they were going to go, especially if they were going out of town. They would plan their trips. They would plan where they were going to eat. Nearly every activity was based on reviews. So these days, I do exactly the same thing. So I assume when someone's looking at a podiatrist and there's half a dozen to choose from, it's super important.
Yeah, it's super important for different reasons. Number one, it's basically like digital word of mouth in a way, right? Like we trust other people, our friends, our family, our neighbors. Their experiences are easier to relate than to some marketing on a website potentially. It's this digital word of mouth that it spreads as well, right? Word of mouth spreads, and so does this digital word of mouth. I think it's also important, like you talked about, that these reviews, not only are they what people say about us, but it's how they say it. So if certain keywords are used inside of a review, this can surface in search. So if someone's talking about a great bunion surgery they had, and you get 5 or 6 or 7 reviews that people are saying that you provide great bunion surgery, like it's going to be a signal to Google, but it's also a strong signal to anybody that reads those reviews. You'll get probably more of those kind of patients based off of these written reviews that you receive. So it's a really important aspect of things. And a lot of people will just leave it to chance. I don't really recommend that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I think it is really important to help cultivate these authentic reviews when possible.
I was looking at a podiatrist in a particular area of America about 3 days ago. 4 podiatrists came up in the first list. The podiatrist that I was looking for, they had 1,600 Google reviews. The next podiatrist in town had 12. And I went, my God. I went and had a look at, I'm reading through these reviews, and all the reviews were great. And I'm thinking, if I was a patient looking for a podiatrist, I was in that town, and one's got 1,600 reviews, and they're like 4.8 rating, and you're reading through everything. And the others, they had 12 there, but no one had written anything for about a year, and all the 12 came in a very short period of time. My trust level for the 1,600 one just went through the roof.
Yeah, it's almost something you don't have to think about. It's almost like instinctual in a way. Because even if you hadn't read those reviews, when you see, let's say you can see 12 at 4.9 or 1,600 at 4.8, you're never, if you have a 5.0, it's like, it'd be great if you do have that, but there's always this concern that are these real or not? Are these authentic? And are they all just, you sent out an automated email and you got these 5.0s with zero comments. But when you have a decent star rating, plus like you talked about, these written testimonials, not even just a review, just a testimony about how great you were and how your staff treated them in a really professional, caring way. It's an accelerator of trust that is difficult to do in any other form of marketing or any other online source. And we'll get into which ones to start with and when should you switch into a different one, but we'll get into that a little bit.
Okay. So how do you what's a professional way to ask for an online review?
Yeah. So I think there's some different ways about going to do it. Obviously, I think it's important to step back and like go into the shoes of the patient, right? I think it can be tough in that clinical situation, right? We went to podiatry school. A lot of us are trained in hospitals. We didn't necessarily get trained like customer service or patient service in a way where it doesn't necessarily feel super authentic for us to ask for a review. But that's where you really have to do. And you have to find a way that you feel comfortable asking for one. People feel like you provided an unbelievable level of care. You can tell that they're happy. Setting up a process where whether you ask directly or in a very compassionate, open way and say, if you had a great patient care experience with us, we'd be happy if you would share this on Google. If you don't feel comfortable in your clinic, you feel like you're putting the patient on the spot, there's something you can train your front desk staff. So if you feel like it's a good patient for your clinic, whether it's on your electronic chart or you have a small note on the chart that passes off to the front desk, they can ask as well. But I really recommend that it's a system where, number one, it's not an automated every person gets it situation, which is you might get a lot of like surface level star ratings, but you're not going to get these deep reviews. It's more about a compassionate personal ask from either you or from your staff, and then giving them a little bit of time to don't put them on the spot in your clinic, hand them like a tablet or hand them something for them to put pressure on them in the clinic. It's okay once they're 15 minutes or a half an hour down the road to utilize either an email or a text messaging surface is what I really recommend. Something like GatherUp. There's other types of software that can be used. There's definitely automated things that can work, but if you really want these in-depth personal testimonials, finding that way to have a human ask so they feel like there's a human on the other side of that, and then provide it to them in an easy way. If you just say, even sometimes a card or a QR code is too much. They just want to like get a text message or an email where they can just click and then go. So that's usually how I find is the best way to ask. And everyone's going to find the system works right for them. That's a baseline level of asking for or requesting a review.
Yeah, I have in my marketing workshops and in the 12-week reboot, the last one's already started, I have a framework on how to get Google reviews or whichever reviews that you're after. And yeah, maybe that's something I could do it up and we could put it as an attachment in this podcast, is because it's a really clear framework that if you just go through these steps and I'll explain really just a quick part of it. It starts like at the beginning when you say to the patient, at the end of your treatment, could I get some feedback from you? And the patient says, yes. You finish the treatment, patient says they're really happy. Now, if they're grumpy, not going to ask this question. But the happy patient, and you say, oh, remember at the beginning when I said you could get some feedback and you agreed, how have you found the treatment so far at the clinic and the service that you got from me? They go, oh, it's been fantastic. And they will say all this positive stuff about you. And then we normally say to them, this may surprise you, but some patients don't realize that we actually treat this problem. Mm-hmm. And they're usually surprised. They're like, didn't know that. Okay, what you just told me, if I got my receptionist to send you an email later today or tomorrow and a link to, are you on Google? They go, yeah. I go, if I sent you a link, would you be able to, what you just said to me then, would you be able to do a Google review for me? I said, because you'd be surprised. People that don't know that we can help them in this, it would be really helpful for other patients.
I think that's a really important part.
And people go, yes, yeah.
I think that's super important because we know all the great things that we do, but not every person that knows a podiatrist does an ingrown toenail or orthotics. Maybe they came to you for a hammer toe and they have a friend that has heel pain, but they didn't realize you did that. So it's just a great way, like you said, to make them realize what you do, but also put it out there to start this digital word of mouth. It can be a huge multiplier, like you said, of your practice when you have a number of positive reviews out there.
So what platforms should people start on? What's the best way to get started? Because there are a number of review platforms you can use.
No, there's definitely no shortage, right? There's like obviously Google reviews. You can review places on Facebook. There's all kinds of medical review sites. I know in the US and in Canada, there's like Vitals and like Rate MD. There's a bunch of them out there. But what I usually
Yelp's pretty big in America too, isn't it?
Yelp can be.
Is Yelp still big?
Yelp can be big, but I think from a medical standpoint, like you don't want to, I think, ignore any of those bigger review sites. But I think when it comes to medical stuff, the best place to start is generally Google. And like I mentioned previously, is that when people do search in Google with your name or your clinic's name, that kind of ratings, stars, and the reviews are going to be very kind of front and center. There's not much yellow on a Google results page, but the yellow is the stars. So it draws your eyes to that star rating. So that's hugely important. And you really should focus on doing that because the number of reviews you have, the quality of reviews you have, those are signals to Google that you are a quality provider in the local area and probably will help somewhat with rankings and just distinguish you from others. So that's the place I usually have people start is by utilizing Google reviews. And those are something too where I recommend that whether it be positive or negative, that you reply to every review that comes in as well. And not just a copy paste. Thanks for the review, Tammy. Like it needs to be something, you have to be aware of what HIPAA is and that you're not like giving anything away that was not said in the review, but you can echo the comments in a 2 or 3 sentences utilizing words they used. It's always good to not echo exactly what they say, but take what they said and respond to those actual words instead of something generic. Because when you show that you actually read what they wrote and you're responding to what they wrote, as opposed to something like cookie cutter, you're a human, it's more of a human touch that means a lot to people, I think. Because if they're just getting a thanks, Tammy, it's like, why did this person even waste the time making that reply? So always reply to no matter positive or negative. As far as the other types of channels.
Before you go into the other channels, just on that point, when you're saying about replying to them, I've actually chosen motels and I have chosen restaurants based on the reply of the business, not just the review. Because when I've read them, I've gone, this business really cares. Like I wrote a review I had a hamburger, surprisingly, a couple of weeks back, and I wrote a review about that hamburger. Their reply to me made me realize why the hamburger was so good. So I just think the replies are so important. So anyway, other platforms.
Well, it makes you feel like someone listened to you, which is like Sometimes the
Yeah.
internet can feel like there's people like talking at each other or like just saying words, but there's no connection. But when you reply with a personalized answer, it's like a level of connection, which is like more than like 95% of what most kind of internet reactions or internet comments are like. So that's hugely important. Other channels, yeah. So there's different ones. Like I said, there's RateMD, there's Vitals, these other ones, but I don't think those should be necessarily neglected. But since Google is so important, you need to feed Google for a while. If you get to a point where you're 1,600 reviews versus 12, maybe at that point in time, and there's certain software you can use when you send out those emails or text messages where you can
Yeah.
like funnel to where those reviews go. But that's maybe a time to focus on some of those Rate MDs or Vitals and just build up some ones there. If you're still like in a competitive area or you never have a huge gap on someone, it might be a time to funnel some reviews over whenever there's a overtly like negative review for some reason. If you get a 1 star or a 0 star and there's only 6 reviews on your Vitals account, it might be time to ship some of those reviews over for a little while to help balance out that negative review. So it can be.
What do you mean by shift? What do you mean by shifting reviews from one place to another? Is this your focus with the patients? When you're asking, can you write a review on Google, you're saying, can you write a review on another
I would say,
platform?
well, I would never even ask the patient for a Google review. I would say that I'm going to send you
Yeah.
this email. And basically what happens is with the software that either you're using in your clinic or you're working with a marketing specialist, there's basic sliders, right? You only show that like the person can make a review on Google, but let's say if you want to go to RateMD or Vitals or something,
Right.
within the
Okay.
software, you
Yeah.
can say, okay, like now I want to send my reviews to RateMD, or I want to send my reviews to Vitals or Yelp or Facebook or something. So you can control the path
Okay.
of where the person is like clicking to leave the reviews. So yeah, like majority of the time it's going to be Google, but there are options to help funnel those reviews towards to outweigh some of the negative ones that do come along. And yeah,
Oh, that makes sense because you said if you had, say, 1,600 on Google and you're so far in front of everybody else, you could give it a couple of months break, go on to one of the other ones where you may only have 6 reviews and your rating may not be as good. If you can build up another 50 over there, then come back to Google again
yeah,
later
it's a
on.
fine balancing act because there's some studies that have been done that show that maybe there is a need for recent review as well. So it's not just the amount you have, but it's a what have you done for me lately that Google might be also looking at. So
Yeah.
it's a fine balancing act. And I think still feeding Google is the best first option, but it's something that you can consider once you have a high enough number in it. And we talked about,
Well, that's when you know it's fake too. Like a lot of fake accounts, all of a sudden they'll have 400 reviews in the matter of a week. And I tell you right now, there's some of those names have got so many vowels in it, you can't say them. And they're all the same. They're all the same similar names. And you go, this is fake.
well, there are nefarious companies or there are ways to try to pay for them, but usually Google will find those out because they come from a certain IP address or certain place on the internet that'll get shut
Yeah.
down or blacklisted in the future. So there's no real need to what they call astroturf or make these fake reviews. It's only going to come back to haunt those people that do that in the future. You definitely want to. It's not about, like we said, it's not really about star ratings either, right? 2 or 3 sentences that are sincere, authentic from your patients that's the golden stuff. Yeah, star ratings are nice. You don't want 0s or 1s, but it's really that digital word of mouth that's spread by those authentic patient reviews, which are really going to accelerate additional referrals to your practice.
Yeah, I got a 1-star review from one person on my book who said it sucked. I was actually going to use that in my marketing. This person here who didn't use their real name, of course, they never do when they're a troll, they use the fake name. And I'm thinking, if my book sucked that much, I would have loved you just used your real name. And that's when you know. And I think people reading fake reviews, people reading reviews that they can tell when something is not right. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's along with fake reviews is I get a lot of questions from clients or when that 1 star or 0 star or a super negative kind of a ranty review comes in. So it's a bit of a panic moment for a lot of practices because they've never really decided like how are we going to address these in like a transparent, authentic way. There's lots of concerns, right? Violating the patient's kind of HIPAA in the US. We don't want to give away medical information about them, but what they're saying isn't true. Can we get it deleted from Google? How do we get it deleted from Google? And it becomes it can be temporary panic unless you just have a concrete plan about how to address these negative ones. And really the plan about going forward with that is first is take a breath and see like what actually happened here from the clinic's perspective, like from you, like just like assess with you and your staff what happened here. If you're not clear on what happened. it's easy to get emotional and want to be defensive or lash out and be protective of your staff and your clinic, but that's usually not going to end up very well, to put it lightly.
Yeah, it's funny. Normally, like just relating to the book, if I was reading somebody else's book, if I was looking at reviews on somebody else's book and I saw a 1 star, I usually take no notice of it because I think no book could be that bad. I've never read a book that I would say that was 1 star. The ones that usually concern me, if it was been my book or somebody else's, where I see the 3 star, because I'm going, they didn't hate it, but they didn't love it. So why was it only a 3 star? But sometimes you'll read through it, and some of the 3 stars are very relevant. You go, oh yeah, it felt this book didn't cover this particular area which I was hoping for. You go, okay, that makes sense. They still like the book, but it didn't cover a certain spot. So if you were going to buy that book, you go, okay, I wasn't interested in that area anyway, I'll still buy it. Oh yeah, I just think sometimes the really negative 1 star reviews, unless there's a lot of them for a podiatry clinic, I don't know if people would pay that much attention to it.
But I think you bring up a very good point there. Sometimes you can learn something from those 3-star reviews. It is an avenue for feedback on your clinic. And us, as much as we feel like we went to school, we went to residency, we know everything, like it is good to get that feedback because it gives you an opportunity to improve the patient experience, to work on things that maybe you had a blind spot to, that they pointed out to you in a way. It's not necessarily best, whether it's, obviously, if it's a complete lie and someone's being malicious to you, it's okay to feel like attacked. But if it is something that opens up a blind spot or something you haven't thought about, it gives you an opportunity to improve that patient experience and the care you're providing. It's
definitely
huge.
because he could be a perfect example. Treatment's been fantastic. They loved the clinic. The greeting was great. They love your staff, but they weren't happy with the waiting time. So there's telling you, improve your waiting time.
Yeah.
So if you saw that review at a certain point, but then 3 or 4 months later, you're never getting any more 3-star reviews. To me, that can be a positive that you've obviously improved that area.
No, 100%. That's exactly what we're talking about here. And it's not only did you get a negative review and people, you're going to feel judged, right? Like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to see this negative review and they're going to assume it's true. And they're going to think I'm the worst, podiatrist of all time. But you have that negative review is actually a huge opportunity to show that you do care, you want to listen, and you want to make it right. If you lash out and you fight fire with fire and you get emotional and you get very defensive, it's going to be a huge red flag to any other patient that sees that review. And it's not just the negative review from that patient or that malicious review, it's the way you reacted to it. So you got to see that negative review as an opportunity, number one, to make it right with that patient, to go offline and see if there's a way offline to find some resolution. Maybe there's not a resolution there, but you at least need to voice and write out in ways that, like, you want to listen, you want to make it right for that patient, but by projecting that and showing that in a thoughtful response, it's a huge opportunity to show that you are like a good neighbor, a good Samaritan in the community, and you're looking out for everybody. It's not just, you're crazy, like, we didn't do that. If you get into that kind of like tit or tat or she said stuff, it's like you're basically wasted that opportunity.
And another suggestion I usually have told people, you get a 1-star review, normally if you click on that person, it'll give you a list of other reviews that they've done. And if you look through their habit and they've got a habit of leaving a lot of 4 or 5-star reviews and there are no 1s, then you need to try and make amends with that person. But if I've clicked on some and I've looked, and that person, every one of their reviews is 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1. They are just a really negative, nasty person. And those ones, I tend to keep it really brief. I would write, thanks for your review. Don't necessarily agree, but I thank you anyway, because they are just wanting a fight.
Yeah, some people do like to pick fights. And like I said, if you fight fire with fire, it's going to just devolve into a online flame war that really, you're going to be down in the mud with them, and it's not going to be helpful. But as long as you do project that you do care, you want to find a resolution, you're willing to listen, for the most part, you'll gain the respect, and it'll come off as authentic, just that you can provide great care. And it's just an opportunity to show that you are, like I said, a good Samaritan, a good member of the community. And these things happen. Even the best doctors are going to get an occasional 1-star, 0-star. These things do happen, and just try not to take it personally.
I think that's a fitting note to finish on. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with reviews?
I would just say, don't be shy about asking for them, or try to craft a way to work on a system that works for you, because if you're just going to imagine that patients are going to seek you out on Google and fill out a review, you're going to be hanging out in the wind, to be honest. You're going to be that 12 review clinic that's maybe you have 5.0 with 12 or 4.9 with 12, but you're never going to be able to use your online reviews as a strong way to generate a flywheel of new patients, to build trust in your local community, and to have that digital word of mouth, which is so powerful in 2022 and beyond. So
I think that's a great way to wrap up. So Jim, thank you for your knowledge on this particular area today, and talk again next week.
Sounds great, Big Tyson.
Not a problem, Big Jim. See you later.